Hello there, YouTube, and welcome to an impromptu live stream from the Common Sense Guy. Welcome to a cat stream, and multiculturalism is failing, completely and utterly failing. Today I have a special guest with us, and his name is the Voice of One.
Hello.
He's finally worked out how the intro works, so we're very pleased with that one.
Voice of One!
And obviously, everybody knows that my normal co-host and esteemed friend is Ogre. How are we all doing?
Good. I'm still trying to work out why this guy's in Palestine if he's some kind of priest, but
Because he's in the Christian part at the Nativity play, in Bethlehem.
So he's not in Palestine. He's actually in Jerusalem in the Palestinian quarter.
Technically, that's still part of Palestine.
No, whatever. There ain't no fucking Palestine. So okay, I'll ask you about that when we actually get into the story. I'm watching. I'm looking at this, and sometimes things that look brutal though. I don't know, man. If you come to my neighborhood with some muzzy shit, I might stab a muzzy in the chest through a fence. If he was in the wrong, I'm not saying I would. I'm just not saying I wouldn't. So I don't know.
So what you're saying is that if you were to see, if you were the person that was harassing young girls, and somebody that was a Muslim decided that he was going to try and stab you through a fence because you're telling him off.
No, the girl thing. So that's the thing. So yesterday, this priest, Fader Shalom, scolded two young men for harassing Christian pilgrim girls at the Nativity Church in Bethlehem. So that's what the genesis was that he was telling them. Exactly. Okay. Well, I mean, no, I'm not obviously not going to stick up for a fondler. I'm just going to say that, look, if this priest wasn't here, they don't. This is the important thing. This is the takeaway, boys. It's plain and simple. No matter what anyone says, they believe if they don't have pubic hair, they are not a man or a woman. And the cooler says that you can't, you can only rape a man or a woman. So if it's not a man or a woman, their holy book says it's cool. So just bear that in mind. I mean, in their society, we talk about rape culture over here and let's be tolerant. But so can you be tolerant to a rape culture, I guess, is the takeaway. That's what I'm trying to say. Because if you can't, then because they don't believe that it's rape if it's a child without pubic hair. That's barbaric, if you ask me.
They also don't believe that it's rape if you're waging a jihad and take away a sex slave, no matter what that person may be, male, female, or child. That's also in the Quran. But that's not what I was trying to push with the actual story. It was the fact that the two men were sort of, as you quite rightly said, harassing these women in general, whether they be Christian, white, or whatever. And they were going into the church, and the priest scolded them to tell them to basically fuck off. And then you had the priest himself standing there telling them to go away and whatever. And then you had the two men standing their ground, and then one of them pulled out a knife and tried to stab the priest. That's the level of I don't give a shit about your fucking laws that happens. That's the actual point of the actual story. The fact that it's a case of he does not care. The fact that he just walks off so fucking casually as well is the whole point that I'm trying to make. If you wouldn't mind actually. If I present you, I can actually play that from the beginning if you don't mind.
No, I'll do my best. I can turn this up. It might.
I don't think it has any sound anyway.
Okay. It does, but my speakers, if I turn my speakers up, it's going to be a hellacious echo for y'all, so it's over.
So as you can see at this point, it's the case that the priest is now telling these two men to fuck off because they're harassing the girls and everything else like that. Obviously not in those type of words. You can actually see that he's technically a friar. He's not actually even technically a priest.
You see his belt. You see his belt right there. So this is a Catholic friar. He's even got the bald pate, like you'd think. I mean, this is so crazy. And then you see this gentleman. I call him a gentleman. This human being with the grayish shirt on right here.
Yep.
You can see his hand cocked. Watch this hand right here. It comes through the fence, and bam! I mean, he's aiming. That's aiming dead on for the friar's chest.
Yep,
That
going for
is
his heart, on
going.
the right side for his heart as well.
Yeah. He's exactly. He's not. I mean, that's the man's right hand, and he knows. He sees where he's going for it, and he's trying to go right for the most vital part and the most vital side. And then, as you said, you see it one more time. I'll play it now. I won't do the rewind, but watch again. As Common Sense Guy says, this whole scenario play out, and then the flippant, oh well manner in which this, after, I mean, Common Sense, can we say monster after, the president of the United States was, so harangued for saying monster about MS-13, but I would say this monster. Watch this again. Make your own conclusion. He comes, as he says, here he comes. Watch his right hand. Comes through the fence to the heart side, and then walks down the road as if, look at that, as if nothing happened. He didn't even run. He didn't even run. He just started to stroll off. So there you go. Before we get copyright infringements or whatever they would do to keep us from talking about that. And I got to say, there looks like there's someone inside of the friar's fence there with a black hat, and I may be the lighting. He looks dark complected. So I don't want to make this a race thing or it's Palestine and the Jews or anything else. I mean, because people try to pick everything apart. It's just a human thing. You shouldn't molest children, basic. And then if you're stopped from doing that by someone that wants to protect these children, don't try to stab them in the heart.
Yeah, with the gentleman in the black baseball cap as well, I think it's more of a case of he looks like he's got some sort of name tag or something that's around his neck. So I imagine that he's affiliated with either the church or the tourist board or whatever in that incident. So I imagine that he's working with the church in some way or some capacity.
You think this may be some kind of badge, some official badge?
Yeah. You can also see it go around his neck in a yellow fashion as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's a race thing because most people in Palestine will be of the same race. This is a religious and cultural thing. I mean, this is Muslims. I mean, a lot of people will sit and defend religion, but the simple fact is this is what we are important. Muslims, because of their faith, do not see other people outside their faith as human. This is why they had no problem doing things like this. They had no problem brutally raping children, knife attacking people in the street. They have no problem with this because to their eyes, from their religion, we aren't human. They are technically, by their religion, doing nothing wrong.
Yes.
So that's the problem as I see it.
Yeah, the infidel or the kafir is a willing prey, so to speak. But I think it's more of that. It's a case of even in the places of the Quran and things like that. It's the ideas. It's the actual ideas that it actually is being pressed and indoctrinated into generalized public now. The fact that ISIS and extremist groups similar to that, especially in that area for Hezbollah, is now pushing all of that sort of stuff, saying that it's okay in jihad to be able to do this or do that. It's a case that now that that's becoming a norm rather than it becoming an exception. And as everybody's always pointed out a million times before, there's 1.8 billion Muslims, I believe. Now, if they all start going to the idea of Islamicists or Islamists.
If we were real strategic about it, we could bring that number down by, 70, 80% easy in just a couple of days.
Well, you see, I would like to point out this fact that if the Muslim world was as capitalist and rich as the Western world, we'd all be Muslim now. If they had the financial and military power to do so, they would try to make a caliphate of the world.
Yes.
Well, in actual fact,
we'd have been Muslim about 1970. Yes.
Well, actually, even before that, is a case of if we didn't actually have the Crusades for the first time that they made a caliphate, it's a case of we would have actually lost Europe in general. Because if there wasn't any sort of form of Crusades, then we would have actually lost our culture. Because Muslims are all the way up to Italy, all the way up to Spain. They were encroaching on centralized and Eastern Europe, Western Europe.
Yes. And the Ottoman Empire was a real motherfucker.
Yes.
all throughout its history too. And I could say, I mean, I don't want to be what look, that didn't sound good. I mean, make of it what you will. I think in the last gasp of any great empire, there'll always be some horrific things that happen, uh, in the end of it, because it will still have some power and will want to inflict damage. So I always reflect back that, don't have a bunch of dogmas, man. I mean, in the end, Palestinians, Jews, whatever, we're all, it's all the same. Just quit stabbing each other. It's fucked up. Quit raping kids.
But that's the point that I brought this actual story up. Is the fact that if this is what they're like in their own country and where they're comfortable and where the laws are actually there to defend them, then when we actually bring them into westernized countries, is that the case that this is the culture that they're actually bringing with them? Or is this a culture that's been indoctrinated into them? Now, remember, this is exactly the point of where they're supposed to be. This is their country, their land, apparently. And it's a case that they're pushing this onto different people. So when they come to our culture and our land, are they pushing our values or are they pushing theirs? And I think it's quite evident that they're pushing theirs. And it's a case that we actually need to start working out what their culture actually is.
Well, I can't even believe there's people that sound like Count Dankula and Voice of One that talk about. Do you see, when you're out in your daily, do you ever see Muslims voice? I mean, it's ever?
No, not over here.
Okay.
Not,
right. So not where you're at. Not where you're at. That's okay. But I mean, I can't, I'm still trying to put myself in Dankula's position, where people that are on the outskirts of Glasgow, Glaswegians, for lack of a better term, because they're not from Glasgow, but close to it, they see this happening where they're at. I mean, God, man, when you see it, let me know. I'll let y'all know when I see it here too, because it's in Dearborn, Michigan, but where I'm at, no. But when Mrs. Ogre and I go to Chicago, Illinois, yeah, man, tell you what. And it's always in the nicest places, the places that we don't, I'm sure that doesn't sound good. Luckily, we get vouchers and stuff, and sometimes we get lucky and go to some nice places like the Hilton on the Miracle Mile there in Chicago. Man, there's so many muzzies there, boys. The last time we went, I was shocked at, and I came back drunk one night, right? I'm a little pissed. We just went to Buddy Guy's Blues Club, which is right behind the Hilton, right there off of Lake Michigan Avenue. And I mean, I see this woman with this burqa on. Boys, look, I'm not saying I'm scared like my knees knocking, but what's your first reaction if you come into wherever it may be it a hotel like in this situation, or if you go to the local grocer and you see some ladies with this, you've seen a burqa. So now play act that you see it in real life, if you have, or if you haven't. I mean, how does that make you feel? Is that a cool thing? Is that a good thing?
It's definitely not a good thing. I mean, I've experienced it. I've lived in London, and the place where I actually live, there's a lot of people that believe in the idea of multiculturalism and things like that. But the thing is, though, it's a case of getting
right in London. You've been on the street and you see like a lady with, like I'm talking about. What? Yeah. Please tell me, am I a bigot because the first time I saw that? What did you think? I mean, I was unnerved, dude. When I came into
the case of, I honestly thought, why the hell are you wearing that? I thought you would want to be more freer, because I didn't understand the religion. I think I was around about 8 or 9 at that point in time. But for me, it wasn't the case that I was so worried about it or anything else. That I was more annoyed that it was the fact that people weren't actually allowed to be free. It was a case that they had to cover themselves up. They were told that they had to. That was a bit that annoyed me. I think that's the that I would actually take from that.
Well, I can't. I want people to assimilate, of course. So, I mean, I've also seen, to make this even on my part, I don't want to sound like a complete jackass. I've never been to India, but I know a lot of missionaries, and of those, I know 3 of them real well. 2 of them went to Darjeeling, India. That's where your queen gets all her tea, from Darjeeling, India. Mm-hmm. And man, these people, they'll have parks, and they have these huge terracotta gods of multi-headed blue, and really just these unbelievable turquoise colors and blacks. I mean, they're like snake gods and goddesses and elephants with heads and multi-armed. And to me, when I see something like that in a park, that's but then I also imagine what they must think when they come to our country and see statues of men on horses and whatever else. They might feel the same as I do. That's how I felt though when I seen that the burger. Look, we don't, in our Western society, I'm not ashamed of it. We don't cover our face up here. We don't make our women cover their face. Yes, we deal with adultery, but so do you over there, and you deal with worse, as common sense guy will bring up every time he gets a chance. He's going to bring it up. You can't rape children, even though that's what you seem to like to do.
Well, they seem to like to do.
Yes, their culture seems to allow. How's that? Because maybe they don't like it, common sense. But we're all, I mean, as repulsed as I am when I see those, I'm thinking about this one serpent thing. It's in a beautiful park, right? And there's this big fountain, and there's this about 7-headed snake thing that if I was a kid, I mean, because of my upbringing in Louisville, Kentucky, I would have looked at that and probably been a little shocked and terrified.
But I think that has to do with different versions of culture. Different people would worship different animals. Different people would worship gods. The actual point of wearing a different clothes, yeah, I can understand that. But going to a different place and expecting, not yourself, but in general, expecting statues to be something similar or anything else like that, it's kind of weird.
Well, do you see what
and their points and their beliefs, especially considering that India is generally a Hindu, a Hindu set.
Well, I also want you to understand is it's that basic part of us that draws differences. It's a safety mechanism. I see the snakes. I see these gods and goddesses that they have portrayed there, Shiva and whatnot, with their heads stamping out care and whatever, with a sickle in her hand, dripping blood. And I mean, it's a little strange to me now, and it would be very strange to me as a child. Just like seeing a snake or some other poisonous reptile or a tiger or a lion. These things are primal for a reason. Yes, come bring the things of your culture. We have things too in the Western society. Nothing's really coming to mind because, well, our love for public executions. We seem to over here really love a hanging, don't we? We'll get the picnic out and watch somebody do the air dance. So we all have our little weird crotches, but there's a reason. Assimilation is the best. The West is the best.
I would say that the West is more liberating. It's more liberal. It's the most freest. Wouldn't necessarily say that it necessarily has to be the best in those terminologies, but it is definitely the most freest. If you want a society where you're going to be free as an individual, then the West society in itself, well, in its conception, was the best. And even to this day, even with the authoritarian versions of what's going on in most European countries, is still better than the Puritanism of Islam. The fact that the conservative version of Islam is the fact of you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do whatever. I think those are the things that we need to actually know what's going on. But no, I do agree with most of the things that you said. I mean, there's certain things that I don't, obviously, which we've talked about, but that's besides the point. I'm quite happy with that story. I think the point of the actual story is the fact that it doesn't matter in what country they are, even if it's in their country, they're still going to be pushing their agenda, and their culture is to do certain things. And now that we have an understanding of what those certain things are, surely that this should be pushed and actually push an actual narrative that people coming from these type of countries do this as a cultural thing, not necessarily just because of a religious thing, but because it's embedded into their culture. And we need to actually enforce that and realize that that's what's happening to our country. You look at all the guns and the stabbings that's going on. It's no fucking coincidence that it's at its worst since we've had the highest forms of migrations for the last, should we say, 6 to 10 years. It's no wonder that people that have now grown up in this country have now started to, attack other people for different reasons.
There's a really good thing that a professor does where he takes these marbles. Well, I think they're gumdrops or whatever, all the same size. And he shows how migration cannot help poverty. It can't help the world's problems. That if the modernized Western world, whatever you want to call it, the quote unquote lucky white privileged, which includes a lot of people of color, apparently, world enjoys, it can't be solved by allowing the others to come here, because we'll always have certain parameters that will have to be met, which means we're going to take a lot of cases the best from where they're at and bring them in and take them to us. And so, I mean, it can't be solved that way. I did see this thing in the Telegraph, though, that you sent me. It says Italy can no longer serve as Europe's refugee camp, says Matteo Salvini, whatever his name is, as he pledges to push EU for stricter controls. Because look, there's nothing you can't. I'm looking at different logical fallacies, man, and I'm seeing how they're trying to work things out, and they're trying to give you the example of probabilities, and it starts talking about things common sense, like stand on the equator, take one step forward every 10,000 years, and then when you get back to where you started, lay a sheet of paper down. Now, when the sheets of paper reach the moon, you know, and it's trying to give you an understanding, and it really is in those vast terms. This is worse than that, because not only is it exponential, but you cannot solve if the Somalis or who is it that's coming over here to excuse me, to Italy as a rule, common sense. I haven't looked down in here too far. I don't know if it will even say
Algerians, Albanians, Tunisians, Somalians, and
so you know, it's these countries. It's Somalians, Tunisians, Albanians, Somalian. It's these countries coming over.
Yes,
and they can't. There's nothing they can do. They keep bringing them over. Italy is going to sink.
I'm going to ask somebody in the chat who's called The Real UK True. Would you like to come on and argue your position for the idea of multiculturalism? It will not be a dog park, obviously. I just want to hear what your actual opinion. I want to hear what your actual opinion is. I want to find out what the reason why you think that we would be thinking this or be going through that. So if you can message me on Twitter, which is @theCommonSense_Guy_G, then just message me and we'll get you on and you can explain your point of view. But until that happens, let's carry on.
That's The Real UK True?
Yes.
Okay, I'll also so he has a link to you. I'm gonna send out in the case you haven't, you probably already have, but I'm gonna send out in the chat here.
Don't send it out in the chat, please, Ogre.
Yeah, there's his link to the Twitter.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to send out the link to or hang on now. But here it is. So get a hold of him there, and we can work from there.
Yeah, that's fine. He's not for it. He's only asking. But that's why I was trying to ask. What are you trying to ask for?
Yeah, sometimes it's tough on text. It might be tough on text sometimes, also. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just get back to the actual stories.
Yeah, Italy's fucked. I mean, and it goes beyond Italy. I think of Merkel. Oh man, you know, it goes beyond Hannibal et Portus to me. There's something happening right now. It's universal, and now it appears to me that Italy is kicking back a little bit. And if nothing else, that's a great thing to me, common sense guy. I want them to stand up and say, look, we can't take boatloads of people that have this ideology that as they come here and want to play upon our sympathies, as we've already mentioned, they'll heave over other sects. I don't care that they're Christian. I mean, I care that they're Christians. I just care that they're humans. So I want to make it clear, if they were the other way around, there's boatloads of Christians coming and throwing off Muslims, well, that would be terrible to be also. I don't think that should go without saying. But they're starting to wake up. I mean, is that the point of this? What is the point of this article that you brought up? I mean, what was it to you that rung the most?
Well, the point of the article for myself was the fact that he is now suggesting that the actual points of migration need to be stopped. They need to be able to stop the people that are coming over from Turkey and Tunisia. They need to stop those type of things from actually happening. Because if they do that, then it stops people from actually dying. So you stop the tragedy in the first place. And second of all, it actually stops immigration from coming over. Because let's be honest, most of these people are not refugees. They're economical migrants. That's why they're all men of fighting age. And I'm not being over dramatic when I say that. It's a case of if you look and you see women, please let me know, because in any time that I've ever seen anything on the BBC, Sky, or whatever, they always show lots of men. Same as when they said there was lots of children coming over, and they actually stopped people from actually seeing the actual people. And we found out that people that were supposed to be under the age of 18 were almost fucking 30 years old.
Yeah, all that math. I've seen some good memes. I made a couple too, where it's like healthy school children, and the people are obviously 40, 50 years old. Common sense. They're not kids.
No, I completely and utterly agree with that. And I actually agree with what the Italians are doing. Because everybody always says, oh, it's a humanitarian effort. If they're in the boats, then we need to make sure that they come across and they're safe so they don't die. Okay, fair enough. I kind of agree with that. But then the point is, then you stop the boats from leaving. Because once the boats leave, because it's not sanctioned, the boats are not going to be safe for the people. They're overcrowded. They're going to probably tip over and in most cases sink at some point. Hence why it costs millions of pounds and euros to actually be able to work out how and when these people are going across so that they can save the people in the actual Mediterranean Ocean. And yet, that's the best theory that we actually have at this moment in time. Stop the boats from leaving fucking Africa. Stop them. That's all you need to do.
You're a racist. That's why you had the voice on, because he's a fucking racist too. Probably agrees with you.
To be fair, Voices said fuck all on this story. I thought you would have kicked off a little bit about it.
No, I didn't want to actually talk over you, but I just want to say I was looking at a story that connects this earlier on today, and I'll put it in the side chat. As soon as Italy said it wasn't going to take any more refugees, guess what Soros did?
Oh, fuck's sake.
Yeah, wants to try pay off Italy to take more migrants.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, hopefully, this new interior minister will be able to stand up to Soros and say, we don't want your money because we don't want your refugees. So,
Well,
that happened.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on ahead, sir.
I was going to say, I think that the Italian the new far right version of Italian premiership would actually probably not take Soros's money for, well, one, obvious reasons, and second of all, because they're just falling apart at the moment with immigrants. I mean, even on, I don't know if Ogre, if you're sharing Voice of One story.
Yeah, I had it up there. I was right back here, so there it is.
Yeah, if you just look at the actual picture, where is any women?
It's hard to tell if this is a bun. I was looking at that. I don't know if this is a woman here, but that's it. This could be a child, a woman, but they have them covered up strategically, and this could be a child. I don't know. They're not looking at the camera.
Well, I would suggest the one in white is probably a younger version of a child, but there's 3 men there and possibly a child.
Oh.
It is just fucking amazing. Yeah, these are all refugees. So where's the women and children that are supposed to escape first?
Well, I just loved how it says also, since this story is brought up, it says George Soros says EU should compensate Italy over migration, showing strong. Well, it doesn't matter. Right here's the big thing: the billionaire philanthropist and financier George Soros. Come on, man. I mean, philanthropist, he's a manipulator. I appreciate this, but philanthropist is where you give a bunch of money that gives bums the ability to have tiny homes in a park that your trust fund funds for the foreseeable future, into futurity, mates. But he's not a philanthropist. Yeah, but it's so funny how, I mean, Tommy Robinson, it's like Tommy Robinson, founder of the EDL and piece of shit, far right wing terrorist, homegrown terrorist, needs to die. And he was, and that's how it starts with Tommy Robinson. And then when it's George Soros, I mean, the fucking emperor for the Voice of One, Emperor Palpatine himself. It's like billionaire philanthropist and financier, wonderful man that loves kittens and pats little girls on the head as he hands them silver dollars. George Soros has called for the EU to come. I mean, it's a little syrupy on the George side. I wonder if he owns this in some way, The Guardian.
I know that he puts a lot of money into The Guardian. I don't think he owns it, but I think he's a financier of The Guardian. He's a financier of quite a lot of different things, to be fair, though. But the thing is with George Soros is that he thinks that he can throw money at people to sort out political problems. If he was really a person of the people, then he would listen to the popular vote and populist movements and actually be able to, understand what's going on, not just throw money at people and go, it's all right, we'll buy you off. It probably has something to do with the fact that, selling people out when you don't want to die. That might have something to do with the fact that he thinks if you throw money at things, you can sort things out that way.
Go on, voice, if you're waiting for a split second.
No, I'll not say too much on George Soros because of a large video plan just on him alone. But
That's
when it comes to Italy, I think if Italy does it right, they can stop their immigration. We know Hungary, etc., are doing it, and the more countries that will join in saying no.
Slovenia,
but again,
as well, by the way, they've just voted in a new anti-immigration government.
Nice, but the problem here is the money. We just saw today that Greece is now going to increase the amount of money people can take out of the bank today. You can guarantee that the EU was behind that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to try and buy their way out of their problem at this point in time. I mean, just to go try and tie these both stories in with the second story there. When the Crusades happened, the invaders used weapons to come across. Now they're just walking across the border. They don't even need fight to take our countries. They're just flooding in, and unfortunately, our leaders, if we can call them that, are opening them with welcome arms, not understanding that, yes, to keep their jobs, to keep getting votes, this political wrangling they're doing now of open borders will keep them in their job now, but they're not thinking 50 years, 100 years from now, when they and their children will be replaced, won't have a chance at political power because it'll be an Islamic country now. This is a thing about this, and this goes to, I would challenge anybody who counts themselves as a leftist, someone who welcomes open borders and diversity. Tell me what happens if we don't close our borders 100 years from now. What the country going to look like then? And they'll just look at it'll be better. And and all the factual evidence we have for the last 20 years on immigration has been completely negative. So if it's going to keep for the last 20 years negative, for the next 100 years and it's going to be negative, it's just I don't honestly see how people can. Again, maybe people aren't looking at the long term, but I just don't see how people can look at the factual evidence. This isn't right-wing propaganda. This is going by the factual arrests, convictions, etc. that we had. Can think this is all good. I don't know how anybody moral or ethically good can, what's the word? When two things come together, can merge that with all the badness. I don't know how anybody can do that. Sorry, I went off on a little tangent there.
No, you're fine. I'm just going to actually, should we say, increase your tangent. I'm actually going to provide an extra point. If anybody wants to understand what's going on with the idea of multiculturalism, look towards Belgium. The fact that people are getting shot, getting stabbed, and the second largest party who will be able to maybe form a government next time that they have elections is a Muslim government that is sole purpose is to bring in Sharia law. And that's the second largest government in Belgium. Second largest party, sorry. So if anybody wants to have an idea of what's going to happen into the future, Belgium's probably your starting block. It's your blueprint.
Yes, I think it is a perfect example of what happens. I mean, what I mean, just if we're sitting here and we're looking at this, what does the left wing in Belgium, all of the fucking super progressive, quote unquote, what do they think's going to happen when a majority of Muslims are running the country? Do they think Muslims are going to go, right? Well, we no longer, because we now run this country, we're going to set aside our Islamic beliefs and go the true progressive, pro gay marriage, pro women route? Or are they going to turn around and just say, right, we've had enough of this gay marriage and women's rights shit. We're now going to reverse all of it. We know what they're going to do. Yeah, exactly. So how does anybody in Belgium or Germany or Sweden sit there and go, oh yes, this is a good thing? It boggles my mind.
No, Will Smith's stories don't come around anymore because of the fact that I challenged him to go out on the streets of his local town. It was other things. I mean, I think Common Sense Guy and I probably beat him up a little bit too much one night on communism. So I'm not shouldering all the burden because common sense has something to do with it. But he definitely got hurt over it. And I said, well, go and hold a sign because you don't believe in Muslims, you don't believe in Christ. So go hold a sign that says, because first I asked him, can you say anything you want in your town? Well, yes, of course I can. I said, you can hold a sign that says anything you want to say? Yes. I said, so make a sign that says, Jesus is my savior. He's the only way to heaven. And stand on the street corner in Munich for an hour. And, no. And I was going to pick where, in Munich, not just random. He picks it because there's places you go. There would be no problem with that. But they also have in that town no-go zones in Munich. But they don't want to talk about that, gentlemen. They don't want to talk about that. And, we were getting it's off. I don't know.
Well, you've got 6 no-goes areas in France. You've got, I think, 5
everywhere.
5 to 7 no-goes areas, proper no-go areas in Germany. I think you've got about 5 in England, Birmingham, London, Luton, a couple of others. You've also got about 6 or 7, again, no-go areas in Sweden. In most places where there's built-up areas of Muslim communities, you have no-go areas. There's a correlation to that.
So that shows what they'd do if they came in power. Voice right there. That tells you. They're not setting aside, or whoever just said that, they're not setting aside anything. If they come to power, they will put in Sharia law, which means you're an Englishman, you've been an Englishman your whole life, you're from Northern Ireland, wherever you may be from, and you're sitting there drinking a pint on a public bench that your grandfather and great-grandfather going back to antiquity has sat and had a cider or a pint, and they will come and tell you not to. And if you don't listen, they'll beat you up.
But that's the whole point of what this idea of multiculturalism stream is about. It's not the fact that people don't want to have forms of immigration and good forms of immigration. There's nothing wrong with integrated immigration. Nothing wrong with that when people adopt to the culture that they're actually going into. People have the problem with the mass immigration that is coming across. To the point where it's so massive that the governments are actually putting these mass immigrants into particular sector areas. So these people are now forming their own communities and their own little land and stan and their own little versions around everything like that. So they don't want to learn the language. They don't want to integrate because they can actually form their own little communities and everything else like that in that area. And that's the reason why it becomes no-go zones, because they form their own area and feel that they have to defend it. Now, this is not me trying to say, oh, but all Muslims are good, all Muslims are bad. I'm not bothered about that. You just look at the correlations between the evidence that is being produced. If you have large quantities and large areas of Muslims in a particular area, you generally have a form of where some people are going to be on the Islamicist version of Islam or the Wasabi version of Islam. And those are the people that do the Sharia patrols and everything else like that. But the left in their infinite wisdom, thinks that if you're compassionate and kind and you show them the error of their ways and you let them integrate properly, it doesn't fucking work that way because you're not spreading them out. You're not going to actually let them integrate properly. You're actually mollycoddling them so that they actually believe what they actually have to do is form their own partnerships. And they do that automatically.
That type of reform has to come from within.
Yes.
So they have to do that themselves, because if we tell them, oh, you can't keep wanting to throw gay people off of buildings and, chopping off, you can't keep doing these things. It's not what we accept here in a modern society. They have to say, well, we don't do these, because let's face it, in the name of Christianity, I mean, many of, and in the name of Druidism and any kind of pagan religion, in the name of, orthodox dogma, many a foul thing has happened.
Well, you've got to remember that these people, these left progressives, think that these people are refugees. So you have to look at the country that they supposedly are coming from. So most of these people are supposedly supposed to be Syrian, Afghanistan, Iraq, and a couple of others. We'll take the Syrian war, for instance, which is actually a civil war between IS and Saddam. What's his fucking name? Syed, or whatever his fucking name is.
Assad.
Yeah, Assad. Assad. And
not Julian, but Assad.
No, not Julian Assad, no, but just Assad. Just Assad. But you've got them two fighting, and it's a case of you've got a Muslim terrorist organization, which some people believe that they're run by Americans or the UK or whatever, or funded or whatever. But you have the Muslim ideology, the Wasabi ideology, pushing into a country that was probably one of the most westernized versions in the Middle East, which had pipe work and everything else like that going to Europe or to Southern Africa. So you work that one out yourselves. But the point is that you have these people that are supposed to be refugees from these conflicts that are supposed to be coming across. So why have you got people coming from Turkey? Why have you got people coming from Tunisia? Why have you got Albanians coming across? Why have you got Algerians coming across? Why have you got Somalis coming across? If these are all supposed to be refugees from the wars that we're fighting, why are nigh on around about 60% of these North African countries coming across as refugees when they're not? They're economical migrants. So why can't we call them migrants? I've never understood that argument.
Well, you can take the historical approach to it. When you look at the 50s and 60s, when we had Caribbeans and Jamaicans and Indians coming into this country, they didn't come to this country to push their own beliefs, to push their own culture. They came here because they wanted to embrace our culture, our values, and that was because back then our country was strong. You had to work to come into our country. You had to show a level of wanting to become nationalistic, to put it in just one way. But the migrants today, our country, let's be honest, our leaders have made our country soft. Germany has done the same thing, and now they're just walking across the border because they know we are weak. Now, in order to stop this, we have to become strong again, but we're never going to be able to do that and stop modern immigration, which, let's be honest, is all about claiming on our welfare. That's what I would say easily 80-85% of modern immigrants to the UK today are coming for, is our welfare system. And of course, instead of having a common sense law, like if you come to this country, you don't get anything, you don't receive anything for the first 5 or 10 years. That includes if you want to send your kids to school, you have to pay for it. If you want to use NHS, you have to pay for it. If we had those, just that simple a law like that, a one sentence law, I can guarantee you it would cut immigration down to almost nothing, because they'd be forced to work for it when they came here. But no, it's open arms. They get a free house, free child benefits, free school, free HMSS, and we're paying for that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Probably around about 60% of the people that actually come into the country are willing to not work and everything else for that. I honestly feel that this is not a force of immigration. This is a form of an invading army. I know conspiracy theorists, I don't care. With the ideas of, as I said before, Turkey deciding that they're going to make an army of Islam. The fact that in mosques in France, in Spain, in England, in Sweden, in a couple of other places, that they have arsenals And by that, I mean they have guns that are anti-tank guns. They have rocket launchers. They literally have enough weaponry to start a revolution, so to speak. And yet, every time that the police bust one of these places, they always go, "Oh, look, massive amount of guns found in Muslim mosque," and then nothing's talked about it. As soon as it's broken for a week, it's gone, and nobody wants to explain or explore the reasons why this is actually happening. Now, as I said, this is not a conspiracy theory. If you look on my Turkey video, I provide you with links going back to 2003 all the way up to 2018. The fact that these are found on a regular basis, and they are literally massive arsenals that are being stockpiled. And I honestly feel that this is an army that's actually coming to invade. I think it's a case of using the method of Japan would do to China. Why you're only an insect, you want to be as quiet as possible. But if you get a lot of insects, then it's a case of you can overpower that country. You can overpower that big, massive animal. And I think that's what they're doing. I think that they're building their numbers to the point where you actually have clerics and some imams actually coming out and saying, we're going to procreate with your women. We're going to procreate as much as possible. When you can only have 1 or 2 children, we're going to have 8. And when we have more numbers than you, we're going to make sure that we take over.
Well, I think to use your analogy there, and to use a certain terminology, I think we could basically describe the places where Muslims have created their own little town or city where they are having Sharia patrols, etc. You could easily describe them as a beachhead. You know, if you look at just across Europe with all the terrorist attacks, they're getting these guns from somewhere. So if you have an invading force that is armed, that is a beachhead in military terms. And we're allowing them to just be created all over the West.
Yeah. And
I don't know why.
Yeah, well, I think the whole point is what you would call a Trojan horse. The fact of offering the sanctuary that we have done, offering the idea of people actually, coming across as supposedly migrants and refugees and whatever terminology you want to use for them, that we're supposed to be trying to help them. And within 10 to 15 years' time, when they're integrated and they have their stashes and, as you said, their bulkheads, they're actually able to then take over. They're already changing the laws to the point where they have blasphemy laws back in the UK again, to the part where you're not allowed to talk about religion in a derogatory term anymore. We all know what one that's going to be more enforced over.
Yeah, I've yet to see an atheist be charged with in some way being discriminatory towards Christianity.
Yeah,
it's always don't speak about Muslims, don't speak about Islam, never speak bad about Islam. And yet, I mean, this is, quite frankly, let's be honest, this is insanity, right? Absolute insanity. You look at the Islamic world, right? What's going on there? Anti-women sentiment, anti-gay sentiment, anti-free speech, anti-everything, right? And then you look at Islam here, and they're saying, no, you can't say these factual things about Islam because it may upset the Muslims who follow it. That's insanity. Listen, I mean, there's a reformer called, what do you call him? Oh, I can't remember his fucking name, but he calls out, he has been calling out Islamic terrorism and Islamic extremism, right? Yeah. And other Muslims have given him death threats because he was
peaceful imam.
Because he wants to speak truthfully about the problems in his religion like an adult.
Yes.
And yet you even have the left, and this is insane, you have left-wing quote-unquote progressives attacking him for calling out the problems and defending the people causing the problems in Islam. And you're like, what fucking world do I live in?
Exactly. It's exactly fucking right, my friend. Unfortunately, it is. As we said before, the fact that people that are supposed to be thinking that this is a great idea and this is for the freedom of everybody and this is going to help everybody, it's not going to help anybody. All it's going to do is either help Muslims take over by going into government. Hence, why almost every single mayor is now a Muslim. We now have a Muslim Home Secretary. That's conservative as well. You look at the foundations, as I said, the blueprint for Belgium. It's going to be the same that happens in Sweden. It's going to be the same that ends up happening in Germany. It's going to be the same that ends up happening in France. They'll end up either infiltrating our political systems, or they'll end up trying to take us by force. Because there's two ways that Muslims generally trying to form their caliphates, and that's either by taking over the political system or by actually taking over the country. And at this moment in time, they know that they can't win in a direct conflict. So guess what they're trying to do? At least that's what my idea is, anyway.
No, I couldn't agree with more with you, lad. I mean, London, and again, I'm not going to put this all on the fucking Muslim midget who's in power there, but the London, oh well, fuck him. London mayor, I think it was the Islamic dwarf, but he gets into power, and after he's been in power for, is he in his second term yet?
I think he's in his second term.
Because
I think he might have started.
And we have fucking a rise in knife crime. You have this Home Secretary who's a Muslim, and he's saying there's going to be a risk of right-wing terrorism. No,
yeah, that's the story.
You know, no, I'm looking at the screen here, right? He's saying that, we have to be aware of right-wing violence. No, that's not right-wing violence. That's self-defense. There's a difference. You know, if it's like this, if the police are not going to protect our neighborhoods, are not going to protect our children, then damn right. If we have to get violent against these people to protect our own, we have to. You know, I mean, I don't think at this point, it might take, 25, I mean, all of us could be dead before this happens, but I really see this ending. The only way it can be stopped is with violence at this point, because it's not going to be stopped with politicians and rules, which we know the other side doesn't follow anyway.
Exactly. Well, to actually go on to the story that you were alluding to, rather than just still going the same way. This is obviously from the Express, but there's obviously other stories that have been done by other newspapers that are exactly the same thing. So use your own source on that one if you want to. But the threat level to stay at severe for 2 years, says Javid, year on from London Bridge terror. The terror that will remain severe for at least another 2 years, and the danger could still increase. Home Secretary Sajid Javid has warned, writes Kate Devlin, as well as Islamic terrorism, the risk from extreme right-wing violence is growing. Now, I'm not sure if this is from actually Sajid Javid, because it cuts off the actual point where he's talking and goes, writes Kate Devlin. So I'm not sure if she puts this in or if it's him. So, Mr. Nogo, would you like to continue?
Oh, on the story? I don't know. Yeah, let me get it up here. Looks like Mr. Javid will unveil the government's new terror strategy tomorrow. Among the measures will be plans to share information held by MI5 more widely across government and with councils. Jihads will go to jail, jihadis, I imagine, will go to jail for longer, while former prisoners will be monitored more closely. The security services could also get an extra 1,000 in staff. There will also be more resources for the government's flagship anti-extremist strategy, prevent in cities such as London, Birmingham, Manchester, and Bradford, excuse me. The London Bridge Memorial Service today, Mr. Javid will say, quote, the government is absolutely committed to doing everything possible to tackle the terrorist threat. It is my first priority every day in this job.
I just want to make a quick point here. He says he's going to put in 1,000 new people. Yeah, that's going to be a real help considering in the last 10 years the police force across the country has been cut by 20,000. So yeah, Mr. Dipshit, your fucking new thousand isn't going to be do fuck all. I mean,
Well, the easiest thing that he could do straight away by actually being able to sort this out and deterring everybody from doing the knife crime, doing the gun crime, and doing more forms of terrorism is by implementing the idea of stop and search again. It's just a simple thing. Who gives a fuck? Unfortunately,
Racist.
who gives a fuck if more people are being pulled over and being stopped? As long as they don't go to prison for absolutely nothing, and they're going to prison for things like drugs or knives or whatever, then isn't that the whole fucking point of stopping?
But you're racial profiling right now. Why would you want? Who's going to get stopped and searched? You see, statistically, it's darkies, it's muzzies and darkies. So you're being a racist.
Well, you see, here's the thing, right? No one, everybody in the left shouts like Ogre says, racism straight away. Well, the thing is, if you look at where the knife crime is happening, it's a predominantly brown people area, and I mean black, Arab, etc. That's where it's majoritarily happening. So if you just go down the demographics route, it's being committed by majority brown people. Therefore, if it's happening majority by brown people in a brown area, you have to accept the logical demographics that the majority people arrested will be brown. You know, we can understand that. So we can. I mean,
I was going to say, my friend, unfortunately, it's the case that people on the left will just go, well, yeah, but those are facts that are being implemented because more people are actually being stopped and searched. They are now being manufactured. You could even say they're being skewered because the police are actively searching for them. Now, I'm with you, my friend. I'm with you.
Demographics are not racist.
I know the statistics. I know that around about 13% of our population commits around about 76% of the crimes, especially in London.
Yes.
So
I mean, it's like this.
Right.
I'll give you an analogy from Northern Ireland. When you wanted to find IRA terrorist, you went to the Catholic areas. You wanted to find.
You look for a bunch of black boys.
Yeah, you went to a UVF. If you were looking for a UVF, you went to the lowest part of town. This is all logic is dictating that the police should do is if the majority of people committing the crime are brown, you check the brown people. It's not racism. That's where the crime's coming from.
In fact, it's common sense.
They didn't say it's a perfect parallel because they didn't know neither of the two happened. When there was the whole debacle with the Protestants, they didn't say, oh, don't be don't hate on them for their religion, and B, no one said, hey, don't hate on those Irish lads, those white Irish lads, because they're white. Why are you oppressing them? I don't appreciate any time where things like that are brought into the argument, because then we can't say, hey, look, there's some crazy people that like to take bombs and blow shit up and time it. I mean, some of the stuff too that happened up there, it was so ruthless with the cunningness of timing bombs to draw attention away and then really blowing the shit up, which happened more than once up there in Ireland. But so that's my 2 cents on it. I mean, has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with religion. Or we would be calling the whole debacle that I just mentioned out by race and religion, but it's not mentioned other than we know it was the Protestants and the Catholics. Do we just know that was a fact? No one said give clemency to one or the other based on their religious preference.
Yeah. It's the same thing on here, isn't it? It's the same thing as the fact of if it's a case that people from a particular demographic are committing most of the crimes or are the people that you're looking for, then you go to the areas where the demographics are full of those type of people. It's not fucking rocket science. It's literally common sense, to play on the pun of my name. It's literally common sense. If you want to go and find somebody, you go to where you know they're going to be. You don't go, if somebody lives in London, you don't go to Scotland to go and find them. You go to London.
Well, you're not going to find a bloody 4-leaf clover in the Serengeti now, are you, mate? I mean, that's the whole thing that we started. You find not necessarily you're looking for.
You're roboting a hell of a lot, mate. Yeah, you're roboting a hell of a lot, mate. You've dropped out as well for some reason. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on because I wanted to prove to the point of the fact that these people are so brazen nowadays. And the fact that you have a London bloodbath, man stabbed outside police station as violent rages on. But that's how brazen that they're willing to be. The fact that somebody is willing to stab somebody outside of a police station. Literally, the words police are standing in front of you, and you're going to stab somebody with those words in front of you. I just don't see how people still think that this is a case of criminality or anything else like that. This is a case of a cultural difference.
I would also say a secondary factor, not to take the focus away, but a secondary factor is that the one reason it's not happening here in Northern Ireland the way it's happening in mainland UK is because our cops are armed. You know, I honestly believe one thing that would bring down crime levels in the UK is if every police officer was armed. You know, I think that would help a lot.
I agree with you. It would actually help a lot. And I've always
the general populace was armed.
Well, I would support that as well, yes.
Well, if you're going to arm the police, you should arm the populace as well. Otherwise, what's the point?
All right, cheers. No resistance there. Carry on.
No. The critically injured man in his 30s was found laying outside the police station in Ilford. So this is
Lord have mercy.
This is literally a biggish suburb where it's not a case of people are doing it in the countryside and just dropping bodies off. This was literally outside a biggish area where he's been stabbed outside the police station, and they don't even have a suspect. They don't even know what to look for. You would have thought that there would have been at least one camera outside the fucking police station.
Oh.
But apparently not. So if you do want to go and stab somebody, make sure you do it outside the police station.
Or outside the cop shop. Well, I don't want to just keep pounding it, but it just rings true to this. Remember this: your self-defense lies in your hands. It shouldn't be subletted out to any other agency. I mean, I believe it should just so. Yes, you can be stabbed to death in front of a cop shop. You can be beat to death. You can be robbed. Your car can be stolen from outside of a cop shop. They don't do. Cops take the report. They don't stop crime.
No, I absolutely agree with you, actually, to be fair, because if that person was to have a knife or a gun specifically on him at that point in time, he would have been able to fight that person off or at least get a shot away. Maybe. At least have the chance and the actual purpose to maybe be able to defend his life and liberty, which is supposed to be the first human right that we have.
Well, I would say, considering the sheer amount of cameras there are outside the police stations over here, which see right up the street for about half a mile, I would say that whoever did this probably wasn't white, therefore they can't release the footage. I mean, let's be honest, they've done it before and they'll probably do it again. Depending on what color the person is or nationality the person is, there's times they just say, right, well, okay, we can't, at this time, if we come out with an story of an immigrant or a black person stabbing someone, we'll it'll be bad politically, therefore let's not do it. So honestly, I don't know how. I would question if they have footage of it or not. Let's put it like that. I wouldn't believe they don't have any evidence.
Well, I'm not moving on, so to speak, but it's just to add to another point as just how bad this no gun policy that we have in our country is, or in the United Kingdom in general. Just yesterday, a young man was blasted in the face during a double shooting in Peckham, South London. That came an hour after a separate incident which saw a man stabbed multiple times in Greenwich. The 22-year-old shooting victim is still in critical condition following an incident on Woodhouse Avenue. The second victim, aged 25, suffered non-life-threatening injuries. It just gets worse and worse. How are we supposed to protect ourselves if we're not allowed to arm ourselves? We can't rely on the police in this situation, as Ogre has already alluded to. It's a case of they come to collect the report. And even if they were on highest alert, and even if they were able to respond straight away, that still gives them around about 5 minutes, for instance. Even if they had a clear line of sight, clear line of traffic, and they were the fucking Flash or Superman, it'd still give a 5-minute window for that person to be able to stab and shoot you, and you haven't got a chance to be able to defend yourself.
5 minutes is a long time, man. That is it's a lot longer than most people think, 5 minutes. And here, I think where I'm at, the average cop response has got to be over 25 minutes. It's over a half hour probably where I'm at, but I live in the middle of nowhere. Wherever you're at, it changes. But the fact of the matter is, it's never instantaneous. And let's just say if someone was trying to kill you and for whatever reason you weren't able to meet that level of force that was being brought to you, no matter how that is, just define that how it is for you. It's an eternity, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes, 15, it doesn't matter. Just take care of yourself, know your surroundings, and petition your government to allow you to carry as close to lethal force as you possibly can, and carry that if you're going to be out and about. Be sober, be vigilant if you're going to be out and about. And because things happen more often than you think too, folks. Things have happened to me in my life. So I'm telling you from experience, you have to be vigilant.
Yeah, it's literally what everybody's been saying on this point. The fact is, a lot of people will go, "Oh, but these are people that are already here. These are people that have been around and everything else like that." No, it's the fact that multiculturalism, the idea of being able to bring people from completely and utterly different cultures. It's fine trying to put somebody in from Eastern Europe, for instance, that still does have a massively different culture to what we do, but yet it's still just about compatible in most instances. Where if you have somebody from Northern Africa coming in, or the Middle East, as we've already alluded to, that have completely and utterly different customs and different way of dealing with people in general, it's a case of that's not going to work. That the two cultures will clash, and unfortunately might makes right in situations with people that don't want to talk
physiologically.
Yay, words.
They're hard sometimes.
But yes, it's a case of if people don't want to talk if people don't want to talk like that, then it's a case of you're not going to be able to sort out a problem if you want to talk and the person wants to beat you up. Generally, it doesn't work. You normally get hit. You normally get hurt. Yeah, you may not get that beaten up, but you're still going to get hit first. And this is what's happening now. Our culture's taking a hit. It's massively taking a hit. We've either got to decide to fight back, so to speak, or it's a case of we're going to let them win. And just moving on to the next fucking story, masked machete thugs decide that they are going to launch brutal broad daylight attack on man outside Tipton Morrison's, which is a garage, by the way.
Yes. Gas station.
Yep. I'll just get it up. It's not a problem.
Yeah. It's something else there that apparently just it's like a Texaco or whatever it was. But guy broke out a machete. I mean, this idea. Look at this. You can see the blade in his hand there. If I move this, they're just chopping people's legs off and stuff. Apparently, over there in merry old England. Like ain't nothing.
I'm going to quickly play this video for everybody to see. So hopefully, it should come through. Apparently, I don't have any fucking sound.
Yeah, I think it's the one below that, maybe. So what I just played.
No, there's fuck all there. That's fucking
there's a bloody stump on the one below. There's a person there with a bloody stump.
Apparently, my internet doesn't want to work.
It's right here if you want it. There you go.
This is a little advert.
More energetic. I think it's It's great that Kellogg's have brought out plant-based cereals. I believe
All right.
from the
Thank you.
massive difference.
Thank you, bloke.
The way I feel.
Yeah, bloke.
Look.
I'm pushing it. There we go.
And somebody definitely got fucking hit. You can tell that the car's been hit a lot. The windows have all been smashed in. Both drivers, both sides and drivers. See? So as you can see from that, it's a case of they've actually been. Hello?
Oh, I can hear you, sir.
Oh, that's all right then. As you can see, it's a case of with the car. It's a case of they've actually attacked the car, broken the driver's window and the window behind the driver to try to get to the actual people. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, sure. Did you see the story in London about the car driver who was attacked with a fucking machete by a black guy on a bike?
Yeah. We did a video, did a story on it on Friday.
That was, I mean, like, a fucking, and let's be honest here. Let's just connect the whole thing. Where does a lot of machete crime happen?
Somalia.
And what cultures are coming here? And we are seeing a spike in knife crime and machete crime. Yeah, so I think we can at least conclude in summary evidence that the two are connected. So,
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I completely agree with you. There's a correlation, and for some reason, a lot of people don't want to talk about the correlation that will probably be the causation. But, racism, apparently talking about stuff that actually affects people is racist.
Yeah, it's amazing how if you're black or Muslim, nothing bad can be said about you,
Yes, Mr. Reality's Temple on Earth.
You're good for a white fella.
Oh, yes,
I can't do his accent. Probably because I'm not insane, but
Well, yeah, there is that. I'm so happy that I was able to get that into a tweet.
I take it we lost Ogre.
Oh, okay. Well, if he comes back, then we'll carry on. But to be honest, we kind of come to the end of the show anyway, to be fair.
Right.
Well, not unless you've got any other sort of stories yourself, or you want to talk about anything else. I mean, I think we've come to definitely the conclusion that multiculturalism has to stop, and these are the reasons why.
Yeah. Fuck the amount of stories. I mean, like I probably like yourself, I see stories and then I'll archive them to do a video with them later.
Yes.
Unfortunately, at this point in time, I'm probably close to a fucking 100, and I haven't got round to any of them yet. So,
yeah, that's absolutely true. I think apart from the stories that we've done today, so we've got 5 stories on that. I look into my archive. I've got In actual fact, I'm just going to screen share this because I think we can talk about this. Actually, to be fair, I was going to do a little bit of a video on it, but while we're there, this is from John O'Booth. Well, after 22 years in the fire service as a firefighter for Nottinghamshire, yesterday I had a phone call from the fire service saying that I've been suspended from duty with immediate effect, and I had to hand in my on-call alerter and photo ID card. On asking for what reason this was happening, I was told I was going to be investigated on some of the content I had recently put on Facebook. Remembering, this man fucking saves lives. He jumps into burning fucking buildings to save lives. And something that he may have said on Facebook is jeopardizing his job, meaning that I might die because somebody on Facebook was offended. The only things that I have recently put on Facebook was regarding Tommy Robinson and how I think it's disgusting that he's been arrested and locked up, and the dirty Muslim... see, that's where you went wrong. That's where you went wrong. Even though you may be true, that's where you went wrong. And the dirty Muslim pedos, rapists, child molesters that was reporting on it at the time have been bailed and will no doubt get away with it. Freedom of speech in this country has definitely been taken away, and in years to come, hopefully all the do-gooders and lefties will look back and realize what a huge mistake they've made, but it will be too late by then. Since yesterday morning's phone call, from then I have since handed my notice in at the fire service. From now on, I will say what I feel is right and do what I can for this country. Even if the PC twats in the fire service want to carry on their blinkered little worlds of pretending everything is okay. Trust me, everything is not okay. And the last little bit is Firefighter Booth signing off, which I thought was very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, this is someone, I mean, not only is he a true hero in the sense that he has saved lives, he's also a true hero in putting his principles above a job.
Exactly.
And I can guarantee you, if that was fucking tweet was by a Muslim and it was white pedos, I guarantee you it would never have been, nothing would have been said about it.
Of course not.
This is, I mean, the fire service, I mean, that is just fucking despicable what they've done to this guy. Absolutely despicable.
Yeah, especially considering that he's been in the service for over 20 years. It's not like he just walked in on the door and then decided he was going to be racist. These people have actually known him for over 20 years, known his service record, know exactly what he's done, what he's capable of, even know what he actually means and what he actually says by it. But yet, for some reason, because he supports Tommy Robinson and the idea that freedom of speech needs to be protected, it's a case of now, you get chucked out of the fire service because you're trying to make sure that freedom of speech is protected.
Just think about it. 22 years of being a decent hero. I mean, and let's be honest, people in the firefighting service who risk their lives for other are heroes. That's just a fact. But this hero, for one, and I guarantee you, it was one word in that entire thing he put on Twitter. One word. And we all know what that. Yeah, we all know what the fucking word was. If you criticize, I mean, like, now just.
It's exactly as you say, mate. If it's the case that you're going to criticize something, then you need to be able to criticize it properly. The idea of freedom of speech is not to be able to call people names, it's not to be able to call people this or that. It's the fact of being able to It's the fact of being able to bring people to actual justice because you're able to go to the police and say that you were raped by a particular Muslim. And for that police officer then to say, yes, I know exactly what's going on. Please come with me. We'll try and sort it out. Rather than police officers from Rotherham and other particular places going, yeah, you're not the first and you won't be the last. You don't want that. But as soon as you start blowing those type of whistles and start telling people, well, this is what's happening, it's a case of you're then the racist bigot. You're then the person who's being the arsehole. You're in the wrong, even though some 27-year-old man who was raping a fucking 11-year-old and got her pregnant at 14. But apparently you're the racist and bigoted person and the evil one for pointing out that that's probably not correct.
Yeah, I mean, like we saw before with parents who went round and says, leave my daughter alone. The Muslims then turned around and went to the police and said, this guy's attacking me and my religion.
Yes.
So
yes.
it's, I mean, I don't in any way support violence, but next time, and it will happen, unfortunately, if your family is in danger from someone like that, do it yourself and do it quietly. I'm not promoting violence. I'm just saying you're going to have to sort it out yourself, and the less witnesses, the better.
The views that are experienced on this podcast are not actually endorsed by the Common Sense Guy. And anybody that experiences their own views is their own views, and it is at their own peril. Those announcements done, but yes, I fucking agree with you. And that's the whole point of self-defense, as we were talking about being able to be armed. The fact that in Telford, for instance, we know from the inquiry that happened that there were taxi drivers that were waiting outside the school to pick these girls up, yet the people at the school did fuck all. They obviously knew, the teachers fucking knew that these people weren't being picked up by the conventional means. They were obviously being picked up, but not by the actual taxi drivers because of work. But they're actually being picked up. I think that that's absolutely diabolical, to the point where social services would have known what was going on. Because when you have a child, you have to declare what's going on with the child. For instance, if you're 14, the social services are going to want to know who the fucking dad is. And then you tell them, like, oh, it's a 27-year-old Muslim guy, and his name's Mohammed. Then you got those people that then look away from it and go, yeah, that's absolutely normal. Yep, that's fine. That's not creepy at all. That's not against anything that we're supposed to do whatsoever.
Well, in the report on Rotherham, if you actually read through the whole thing, social services, the head of social services in that area quit because he was involved. He knew about it and didn't do anything.
Yes,
that's
indeed.
why I think there were 6 politicians. I think there was 3 people out of social services and a number of police officers. They all fucking quit because they were, what's the word when you're in league? What's the word?
Complicit.
Yeah, they were complicit in what was fucking happening. I mean, that doesn't give anybody any faith in the other. And like, I'm sure there are still good people working across the country in social services, but when we see that, why would anybody put any faith in social services anymore?
Exactly. You know, it's the same thing as the council for Rotherham as well. When people come to me and tell me, "Oh, I like your video on Tommy Robinson and the theory that you come up," but I don't think that I think the reason why the council hid everything and silenced people was because they were scared of being racist. It's like, okay, fine. If we go down that avenue, why did they hide evidence? Why did they pay people to be silent? And why did they sack people to be silent? If they were just doing it because of racism, they just would have gone, "Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it." But it's a case of these people were being brought information that could lead back to them. That's the reason why they were fucking sacked. That's the reason why they were paid off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep a tirade in because it would get, a channel taken down if anybody watched it. But I'm sure a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people like myself, yourself, and people watching understand that if the left want to wonder why people are starting to come out of their comas collectively on a social level and start to fight back against this, why there is, I'm sure, and will be in the future, violence against this violence that is happening to us, this is where it's coming from. They're creating it. The left is literally creating the problem and then blaming the response to the problem as the problem. I mean, time for a new world fucking order.
Yeah. New world order.
Clans start at the tip of Scotland and work our way down.
Slowly. Yes. I suppose apart from going on tirades and different points about different things. I think that the stream really has come to an end on this point. I think the idea of multiculturalism, it has to stop. It just has to stop. Please stop. Don't ever happen again.
Yes, indeed.
So if you wouldn't mind giving your last word, Voice. I know Ogre's not here, so he can't give his last word, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind you taking his spot.
Oh shit, I forgot we did this. Okay. Yeah, love being put in the spot there.
You knew what was going to happen. You knew what this was when you signed up.
Yeah, but I forgot I did this at the end.
Protect yourself.
Run away.
Fight for the Empire. Don't fight for the Republic.
I would say there is a part of all of us in the UK, at least the majority of us, that has fell silent, has fell into complacency with what is happening in our country, and we have been ground down to fear speaking out against it. But thanks to people like Common Sense Guy and other channels and certain...
Sargon, though. Not Sargon.
No, he fucking traitors away living it up in America. But you know, there are people who are willing, especially that firefighter, like the firefighter, he was willing to put his livelihood on the line to speak the truth. And we all need people, we need more people to do that. We need more people to stand up and say, right, enough is enough. And we have to get to that point before the violence starts. If we can end this with words, brilliant, best outcome. And we have to do it now, because if we don't, then violence will be the only answer, and innocence across the board will suffer. So stand up now and join the voice.
Just remember that everything that was said there was by a Northern Irishman. Take that as what you will. To be honest, I know I do this quite a lot, where I go, "Oh, I ain't got a lot to say," and then 10 minutes later, I'm still going. But to be honest, I don't really have a lot to say. It is a case that most people know what's going on; they just don't want to talk about it. I do find extremely puzzling and extremely annoying that when it's a case of Me Too, when it's a rich white man, or if it's a rich black man, Morgan Freeman, it's a case of they'll go after them with vitriol. They will be vicious towards them to be able to get their point across. You know, the Me Too movement. But yet, when it's Muslim men, general men, raping young children and women and young boys, they don't want to say a word. Now, if you have a movement that's supposed to be there for equality and is supposed to be there for the idea of protecting young women, boys, men, the LGBTQ people and everything else like that, or whatever, why are they not jumping on these stories? Why are they not trying to protect the girls? Where you have police officers and you have council members, social services, all coming out and saying that, oh, well, these victims, they were the lowest of the low and they probably brought it on themselves. That's not me paraphrasing, at all. That's generally what some police officers and some social services people actually said. In fact, I believe a council member actually said that in a court hearing as well. I don't have a citation for that because I didn't realize that I was going to do that. Otherwise, I would have posted it. But that's the truth on that aspect. The fact that those people will do that to protect certain groups of people. But yet, when it comes to something like me or you, the average Joe, so to speak, if we even touch a woman on the shoulder, that is now classed as sexual abuse. If we wolf whistle to try and initiate the idea of a conversation to be able to go do fancy a coffee at some point, or just generalized chit chat, then we're now considered sexual predators. But yet people that actually go out of their way to pick children up at school, to actually go around to parents' houses and threaten to burn their house down and set them on fire if they go to the police or tell anybody what's going on. Apparently that's okay because they're brown, because they're Muslim. And no, that's not a case that all Muslims do this. If they did, it would be a case of we would be fucked. And nobody's ever going to dispute that. But where there's a correlation, there may be a causation. We have to look at the correlation to find out what's going on. If we have a hypothesis, we have an idea, and we need to follow that theory through. Any scientist will tell you that's how science works. That's how facts work. You have to go with the point of being able to find out what the actual problem is. But if you're not going to talk about the problem, it's going to continuously be there. And these people that preach the idea of the Me Too movements and rape and things like that, that are all bad, and which they are, but only when it's been done by a white man because you can get money out of it, that you're going to attack them for it. Where if you actually try to attack the actual people that are raping children that have been convicted for it, it's a case of we're not going to get involved. And then you wonder why people fall to the alt-right. You wonder why people fall to the Tommy Robinson guys. And no, Tommy Robinson is not alt-right, obviously. But you wonder why those type of people would go and follow people like him and the alt-right. The reason why is because they're only fuckers talking about it. And people want to talk about it. They want to express their anger. And the more that you actually initiate the conversations and have this stuff taken and talking about, less people would be more angry and would not go towards the alt-right, would not go towards following your racist buddies called Tommy Robinson and things like that. And I use inverted air commas because he's not. But, you know, you're going to call him that anyway. But if you want people to stop going and following those people, have the conversation, however uncomfortable it is. You know, like my white privilege is uncomfortable to talk about. So's your guilt for people that do this. And the fact that you're not talking about it is more pressure on you because you're not actually sticking to your principles and looking after the young women. You're not feministing properly or feminizing properly, whatever. Well, on that note, I'm going to bid you farewell. I'm going to bid you adieu, and I'll speak to you all again